love the reality that as we consider where we are today and step forward, then God provides His story to connect with ours. For so many, the sad truth is that's where the full stop ends. They experience this wonderful thing called salvation, sins forgiven, future secured, hope delivered, bondages broken, provision every day. Just like these men who began hoarding everything up and thinking this is a great collection we've got. This is an amazing bunch of things. And then, of course, they came to that moment where they said to each other, you know what? We are not doing right. This is a day of good news, and we're keeping it to ourselves. That which we've experienced, the connection with God's story, we need to not keep that to ourselves. We need to tell the world about this wonderful connection, this wonderful provision, this wonderful salvation that He's made available for us. We can't keep it to ourselves. Excuse me. And they get to that moment. You know, outside these doors, there are thousands and thousands and 10,000s of people's stories desperate to connect with your story. Desperate to connect with what God has done in you and for you and through you. Waiting for you to tell them their story. You see, when you and I and our story connects with God's story, it should actually be compassion that rises. And in the anatomy of a risky life, it starts with constant consideration. It moves to making that connection with God, but it always continues to come to the place of compassion for others because of what you and I have received. Then it's our privilege, I believe, our obligation to give that away and connect with other people. It's not rocket science. These four lepers, they didn't know theology, they didn't know nutritional details, they didn't know how to distribute all the things that were there. All they knew was we went, we encountered, and now we're different. It's like the men that Jesus met in John 9. You remember he was a blind man. And the Pharisees were asking, how did you get healed? What happened to you? Was it, who healed you? And the man said, hey, I think he was a prophet. And they said, he can't be a prophet, he must be a sinner. And the blind man said, well, sinners don't heal. And he said, I don't know whether he was a sinner or whatever he was. All I know is this. Once I was blind, then I encountered Jesus, and now I can see. It's as simple as that. For the men, it was as simple as we'd nothing. We went to what was provided, we got everything. And that's how life has changed. It's a BC, EC, AC life. Before Christ, encountering Christ, after Christ. That's all we need to know. That's all that your story needs to incorporate. This is who I was before I met Jesus. Then I met Jesus, and this is what happened to me. And now after Jesus, this is how I live my life. That's what it's about. It's as simple as that. That's what the compassion of the gospel means for you and me to tell others about what Jesus has done in and through your life. They had that illuminating moment that said, you know, this is not right. We're keeping this to ourselves. It's up to us to intervene. And there's a moment where you and I need to get a grip of the at-onceness. It says that at once they got up and at once they went. Let's go at once and report this. There's an urgency. Oh, let's not wait until our last moments to bring urgency into your life and my life. You and I have already been energized by the Holy Spirit to be witnesses. Acts 1:8 says that we've been empowered to go and be witnesses here, there, and everywhere. I love what they imparted. They told them everything that was happening. And you see, what happens there is that it's not just four lepers whose story is forever changed. It's a city, and their story is forever changed. The people go out and they enjoy all the benefits, and they also come to an end of the time of famine. All around us in our city, all around us in our world are men and women who are starving for spiritual life, who are starving and dying, as it were, to death, to eternal death, because they've never encountered the provision of love and grace and forgiveness and security and future and hope and joy and peace that God can give. And God has entrusted you and I. You know, could it be that this church. It's part of the conviction of this church that we're going to be a risk-it church. A risk-it church full of men and women who take their story and connect it with God's and then tell it to others. Could it be that we could be a church characterized by risk-it people? That if people talk about King's Community Church, they know they're risk-it people who constantly are telling us about what they were like and how they met Jesus and how their life has been totally transformed and different. Could it be that would be said of you and I? You know, it is the commissioning and calling on the church to go into all the world and tell the good news. You and I are obligated to go with this wonderful story that connects with your and my story. How wonderful this story ends in that which Elisha had said comes to pass. The story of that God had declared actually becomes the reality that they experienced as they began to go and find that, yes, indeed, they were selling a bag of flour for 70p.